This video couldn't happen without those you supporting me on Patreon, including the big patrons of this month, the Nerd Therapist and Xavius. Hey Pokemon Masters, Berkeeper Toby here, and in the absence of an upcoming Pokemon game, though it may have been announced by the time this video is out, please, I've been rewatching a whole bunch of old Pokemon anime, including the series known as Pokemon Chronicles. This is a series of 4 volumes of DVDs, although the box only comes with 3. That depicts the time that when Ash Ketchum was traveling off to Hoenn, what all the other characters were doing. What was Brock doing? What was Misty doing? What was Richie doing? Because everyone really cared, like, what was Richie doing? Where is Richie nowadays? Maybe Sparky's in Alolan Raichu. Anyway, that doesn't matter. It also included a really cool Raikou movie. I would recommend you check it out if you've never heard of it before. So it's a bunch of side stories set in the world of Pokemon. And one of them caught my attention. One that involved Brock returning to the Pewter Gym, where he meets his dad, the gym leader, who says that the gym has been overrun and overtaken by Brock's mother, who is now using water-type Pokemon and has changed the Pewter Gym to a water gym. And in fact, partway through the story, they decide that the gym should be both a water and a rock type. Now, obviously, Brock has his way and the day is saved. But as they were talking about this, I got thinking, like, surely that shouldn't be allowed. Like, surely there's a league regulation, right? You can't have 2 water-type Pokemon gyms in one region. And isn't there, like, a whole legal process that maybe they would need to go through? I mean, I've been working on the assumption for the longest time that you have to, if you challenge a gym, you could maybe become a gym leader, or if you're an ex-champion, you could become a gym leader. And I'm part right, but I began to realize that there is a common theme across all Pokemon gyms. And that is that gym leaders, they're not, like, elected to their position. They're not really chosen so much as they are inheriting their gym. Gyms and gym leaders are kind of like palaces and the royal family. Bear with me. First of all, just looking at Pewter Gym, for example, Brock's gym changes hands between Brock, his father, his mother, and his brother, so it all stays within the family. Misty's gym, the Cerulean Gym, seems to jump between her and her sisters. Lieutenant Surge was stationed at his gym, so we don't know anything about who owned the gym beforehand. We don't know much about Erica's gym, but we do know that when it comes to Sabrina's gym, her father has strong psychic powers. This is shown in the anime, and it seems very likely that he was also a psychic-type trainer, probably the gym leader. Although, before the Psychic Gym, it was actually the Fighting Gym in Saffron City. I don't know if the brothers, if the karate people, if they're all related or not. We don't know much about Blaine's family, though he's probably related to Dr. Fuji, and we do know that when it comes to the Fuchsia City Gym, Koga passes the gym on to Janine when he goes off to become an Elite Four member, Janine being his daughter. And the only exception to this encounter really is the Viridian City Gym, that used to belong to Giovanni, but it didn't pass to his son Silver. Yeah, spoiler alert, Silver is Giovanni's son. Instead, it went to the newly appointed champion, Blue, or the champion that just got overthrown. So that's just the Kanto region, and we don't have a lot of evidence really hitting either way. Out of those 8 gyms, 3 of them we have no idea about. One of them is a maybe, that being Sabrina's gym. Pewter, Celadon, and Fuchsia City are definitely all remaining within the family, and then when it comes to the Viridian City gym, we've got something that is definitely against that. So nothing too conclusive anywhere. But then I started looking at the other regions, and the list of family members that share a gym just kind of keep growing. Flannery of the Hoenn region, for example, inherits her gym from her grandfather. Falconer inherits his gym from his father. Rourke and Byron from the Sinnoh region are father and son, and they both own a gym that's separate to each other. I don't know if that's a point really for or against. Silent, Chili, and Cress are all triplets, and they share a gym. And speaking of triplets, we've got twins in Tate and Liza who share a gym. Obviously, they're family members. And the point here with triplets and twins, it's like they're probably not both going to get elected. They probably both have to inherit it. Skylar of the Unova region inherited her gym, and then finally there's another interesting example in Unova, which is Drayden and Iris. They both share a gym, but they're not technically related. Iris calls Drayden her grandpa, and they do live together, so it seems most likely that Iris has been adopted by Drayden. I'm not sure about the specific relationship between them, but at least they are very familial in that sense. So it seems like a lot of gym leaders seem to be related to previous gym leaders. So again, I don't think they so much get elected into the title so much as they seem to inherit it. And given that Pokemon is based off of Japan, and I have watched the whole 9 minutes, the whole history of Japan by Bill Wurst, great video, please check it out. Given that I've seen that, I know that Japan has been broken up into segments and regions frequently throughout history, and often the power seems to shift between the Emperor and the Shogun and the Shogunate, and it's all over the place. Potentially gyms are kind of a result of that kind of culture of power shifting and having palaces everywhere, or important buildings. gyms. But I did of course mention before evidence against this being Lieutenant Surge, who was definitely stationed in the Kanto region. Fantina follows that as she came over from France, or from Kalos most likely. Valerie is originally from the Johto region, although there's no reason she couldn't have inherited the gym. After all of the gym leaders are kimono girls like her. Seems like the kimono girls of Johto also have an attachment to that place. And the other two, the big examples, are Blue, who of course got the Viridian City gym, and Juan, who in Pokemon Emerald took over from Wallace, and Juan used to be Wallace's mentor. Even though Wallace does actually have a family member that appears in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. But given that gyms are maybe supposed to be inherited in this way and that they stay within the family, there is a couple of you can understand why these exceptions would happen. Especially with Giovanni, he was a crime boss, and perhaps being a crime boss maybe strips him of his right to own that gym. And when they need to bestow it to someone new, who else better to bestow it to than one of the latest champions who happens to live only a town away, being related to the professor of the region. It actually really makes sense to install that person into a previously crime-ridden gym. As for Juan and Wallace, they're definitely not related, but it got me thinking. It got me thinking about the role of gym trainers. Gym trainers are students of the gym who only study the type of the Pokemon of that gym. And instead of traveling the world and seeing all the mysteries of the Pokemon world, they can just learn under that gym leader. And gym leaders don't stay gym leaders forever, and maybe they don't always have family. Like, for example, Juan, we don't know anything about his family. Potentially, at that point, if there's no one left to inherit the gym, they instead bestow it upon one of their trainers, one of their apprentices, like what Wallace is to Juan. And when Juan wanted to go and challenge the Pokemon League and become champion of the region, he then gave that gym back. It also means that their underlings can look after the gym and still give out gym badges when those gym leaders need to go on errands and do stuff. And that's legitimately a thing. After all, in the anime episode, when Ash and the gang go to challenge the Team Rocket Giovanni gym, instead Giovanni gives his badges and his Pokemon to Team Rocket. Granted, they're not gym trainers, but they are people who work under Giovanni. All of this also then got me thinking about the role of progression. How can they then go from being gym leaders to Elite Four members? Surely they don't inherit Elite Four member status. Now maybe they do, there's a pretty good argument of Will and Lorelei being related, but additionally where Koga became an Elite Four member after being a gym leader, there is an example in Sinnoh where Volkner was getting bored of being a gym leader because no one was challenging him that was up to his status, so he was going to get ready to go off and challenge the Elite Four. Potentially, if by beating the Elite Four and the champion as a gym leader, you can then take your place on the Elite Four, removing one of the other ones. Structurally, that all makes sense to me. So you have kind of like the big 8 families of a region, each one specializing in a specific type. Whatever type they want. These are the Pokemon gyms. But then, for example, if a gym leader wants to go traveling, then Brock can bestow the gym upon his father, give it to a family member to look after, or if there is no family member there, they can give it to one of their many apprentices. Potentially, when it comes to people like Lieutenant Surge and Fantina, they were awarded their gym. I mean, Lieutenant Surge potentially for his war skills and victories. Maybe there was no Vermilion gym before he showed up. As for Fantina, we don't really know who had the gym before she did, just that she had to come over from France. And then if the gym leader still wants to be a powerful trainer but doesn't want to stay a gym leader, they can challenge the Elite Four and the champion for the right to become an Elite Four member themselves. That to me, as far as I can tell, makes perfect sense within all of the canons of Pokemon lore, but you'll have to let me know, what do you think? I mean, right there in that whole thing, you have 14 gym leaders that all have family members who were previously gym leaders in their gyms. You got 5 where there's special circumstances, including Blue, which makes complete sense. And then after that, every other gym leader, we don't know anything about the past people who used to run those gyms. We don't know whether they were family or not, but given the trend of the first 15, it seems pretty likely. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I am looking for the 4th volume of this DVD now, so I'm going to go and try and find that and watch those episodes. And of course, soar high, Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master.